started, I'm already making my cornbread, and I'm using prepackaged cornbread mix. It's 2 7-ounce bags of cornbread mix. I've added 2 large eggs, and now I'm going to add 1 cup and a third of milk, basically following the instructions on the packages. And for those of you that always wonder what I use, today I'm using the Martha White brand of yellow cornbread mix and 1 sweet yellow cornbread mix, just a mixture. And now I'm just going to combine all of the ingredients well. By the way, you can definitely make a homemade cornbread, but today I'm actually filming another video about how to do your holiday meal prep. Basically, meal prepping all of your holiday sides so that you're not overwhelmed for the holidays. Anyways, back to this video. I have a greased 9x13 pan. I'm pouring the mixture in, and I will be baking this at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. Again, just following the directions on the packages. Okay, so my cornbread is done. So what I'm going to do is basically crumble it up and break it apart in the same pan and return it back to the oven to toast for 15 minutes. You could also just skip making your own cornbread and purchase the prepackaged, already toasted and dried cornbread stuffing mix. That is a lot easier. But I will say this, when you do make your homemade cornbread, or even if it's a prepackaged mix, it really does make a difference in the end result. So try to do that if you can. So again, going back in the oven to bake for another 15 minutes or until the cornbread is toasted. Next, I will be using 1 medium bell pepper, 1 small onion, and 5 celery sticks. Now, if you find that the onion, bell pepper, celery ratio is just too much for the amount of cornbread, you can scale back and use half the amount. I have chopped all the ingredients, and now I am going to saute them. Now, before I start to saute my vegetables, I just want to remove the cornbread from the oven before I burn them. That has happened before, but here they are. And I'm just going to give them a mix, and you can probably hear that they are nice and toasted and dried out. You could also make your cornbread ahead of time and just let it get stale, a little drier and stale before you use it. That also helps. Okay, so here I preheated a pan, and now I've added 1 stick of butter, and I'm going to melt that down before I add all of the vegetables and start sauteing. Now I'm going to saute this for around 10 minutes or until the onion and celery are translucent and softened. Okay, and I almost forgot. I'm going to add 2 minced cloves of fresh garlic. I'm also going to add salt to taste. This is right under a half teaspoon of salt, somewhere between a 1/4 teaspoon and a half teaspoon of salt. Again, it's to your taste. I will also be adding pepper to taste. Now this next ingredient is optional, but I like to add poultry seasoning. And I'm just going to eyeball it, but if I had to guess, it's around a half teaspoon of poultry seasoning. Now, I do have some family members that prefer not to have that poultry seasoning taste with the sage and marjoram mixed into it, but I actually like it. So it's up to you, but again, I'm using around a half teaspoon of it. Okay, so as you can see, My onion, celery, and bell pepper are all sauteed. They are softened and everything smells fantastic. So now let's go over the other ingredients that I will be adding into this dressing. Okay, so I will be using a pineapple spiced baked ham that I made the other day. I'm going to be using several slices. I'm again eyeballing this. I'm also going to be using 1 smoked turkey leg. By the way, I usually use boiled or roasted turkey in this, but I'm not making a turkey and I couldn't find just plain regular turkey legs, so I opted for smoked. And here they are. I've just finely chopped them. Again, if I had to guess, this is probably 1 cup of each. And there are other ingredients that my paternal grandmother used to use in her fantastic holiday dressing. Things like boiled egg, minced olives, finely chopped pecans, and minced turkey gizzards and meat from the turkey neck. And it's fantastic. But today I don't have any of those things and I am a nut-free house, so I opted to go for a scaled down, simpler version of this. So now I'm going to just mix everything together in a large bowl. By the way, be sure to check the description below this video for the ingredients and measurements to the recipe. I'll also add links to other recipes that you might find interesting. Okay, so now that everything is combined well, I'm now going to add some chicken broth. Here I have 3 cups of chicken broth. And I'll start using around 2 cups and then add in the extra cup as I'm mixing. You don't want to add too much to begin with, just in case you add more than you need. So again, in goes my chicken broth. And after you mix the chicken broth and everything together, you want to taste it for salt or seasoning. I actually am using a very smoky, salty baked ham, so I know I'm not going to need tons of extra salt, or if any, because the chicken broth as well does have sodium in it. But again, you want to give it a taste to make sure it's seasoned to your liking. I will also mention, if you do opt to use a bag of the dried, pre-packaged cornbread stuffing mix, you probably will need more broth or liquid to saturate it. Because I bake this and I toasted it, it's not as dry as the prepackaged stuff. So keep that in mind. You might need more liquid to add to your dressing if you go for the prepackaged stuff. Okay, so here I have a lightly greased baking pan, and you could definitely use a glass or ceramic casserole dish, but again, like I mentioned earlier, I'm also doing a video on holiday meal prep for sides, so this is why I opted to use my aluminum throwaway baking dish. So now I'm just going to add everything to the baking dish, and then I'm going to pat it down, cover it, and bake it. I will be baking this in a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour. and then I'm going to uncover it and then bake for an additional 15 minutes or until the top is golden brown. The cook time will vary depending on how cold or hot or room temperature your starting ingredients are. So just bear that in mind. It might need to cook longer, but typically an hour to 15, an hour and a half. Okay, so my dressing is done and my house smells like the holidays. And as you can see, it has a nice crust on top and the inside is moist and tender. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.